Hey y'all. Okay, I'm on page 652. I am the fourth paragraph from the bottom and it says, and you won't go away. Okay, so 652, fourth paragraph from the bottom. And you won't go away? I asked gloomily. Why, how can I, dear? It is only 3 weeks more, and then we will take a nice little trip of a few days while Jenny is getting the house ready. Really, dear, you are better. Better in body, perhaps, I began, and stopped short, for he sat up straight and looked at me with such a stern, reproachful look that I could not say another word. Okay, so what about her mind? My darling, said he, I beg of you for my sake and for our child's sake, as well as for your own, that you will never for one instant let that idea enter your mind. There is nothing so dangerous, so fascinating to a temperament like yours. It is a false and foolish fancy. Can you not trust me as a physician when I tell you so? So, of course, I said, no more on that score, and we went to sleep before long. He thought I was asleep first, but I wasn't, and I lay there for hours trying to decide whether the front pattern and the back pattern really did move together or separately. Okay, so she's talking about the wallpaper. All right, so this is our next journal entry. On a pattern like this by daylight, there's a lack of sequence, a defiance of law. That is a constant irritant to the normal mind. The color is hideous enough and unreliable enough and infuriating enough, but the pattern is torturing. Okay, so notice how her language towards the wallpaper is changing. Now this is torturing. You think you have mastered it, but just as you get well underway in following, it turns a back somersault, and there you are. It slaps you in the face, knocks you down, and tramples upon you. It is like a bad dream. The outside pattern is florid, arabesque, reminding one of a fungus. If you can imagine a toadstool, it joints an interminable string of toadstools, budding and sprouting in endless convulsions. Why, that is something like that. That is it, sometimes. There is one marked peculiarity about this paper, a thing nobody seems to notice but myself, and that is that it changes as the light changes. Okay, so notice how we've had like all these paragraphs specifically dedicated to the wallpaper and how it's changing. When the sun shoots it through the east window, I always watch for the first long straight ray. It changes so quickly that I never can quite believe it. That is why I watch it always. By moonlight. The moon shines in all night when there is a moon. I wouldn't know it. It was the same paper. At night, in any kind of light, in twilight, candlelight, lamplight, the worst of all by moonlight, it becomes bars. Okay, so when the moonlight's out, this wallpaper becomes like bars. The outside pattern, and the woman behind it is as plain as can be. Okay, so there's a woman behind the bars. This is all in the wallpaper. I didn't realize for a long time what the thing was that showed behind the dim sub-pattern, but now I'm quite sure it is a woman. Okay, guys, so we have like the main pattern of the wallpaper, and then there is kind of like another pattern within. That's kind of what she is seeing, and the woman is within the sub-pattern of the main wallpaper. Okay, I know this is crazy. By daylight, she is subdued, quiet, like all women should be. I fancy it is the pattern that keeps her so still. It is so puzzling. It keeps me quiet by the hour. I lie down ever so much now. John says it is good for me, and to sleep all I can. Indeed, he started the habit by making me lie down for an hour after each meal. It is a very bad habit, I'm convinced, for you see, I don't sleep. And that cultivates deceit, for I don't tell them I'm awake. Oh, no. The fact is, I'm getting a little afraid of John. He seems very queer sometimes, and even Jenny has an inexplicable look. It strikes me occasionally, just as a scientific hypothesis, that perhaps it is the paper. Okay, so her husband is starting to kind of look at her funny. He's kind of wondering, is she getting better? I have watched John when he did not know I was looking, and come to the room suddenly, on the most innocent excuses, and I've caught him several times looking at the paper, and Jenny too. I caught Jenny with her hand on it once. She didn't know I was in the room, and when I asked her in a very quiet voice, with the most restrained manner possible, what she was doing with the paper, she turned around as if she had been caught stealing, and looked quite angry, asked me why I should frighten her so. Then she said that the paper stained everything it touched, and she had found yellow smooches on all my clothes and John's, and she wished we would be more careful. Did not that sound innocent? But I know she was studying the pattern, and I am determined that nobody shall find it out but myself. Okay, so she doesn't like anybody looking at this pattern. She doesn't like anybody studying the wallpaper. She is going to figure out what is going on in this wallpaper by herself. Life is very much more exciting now than it used to be. You see, I have something more to expect, to look forward to watch. I really do eat better and am more quiet than I was. John is so pleased to see me improve. He laughed a little the other day and said I seemed to be flourishing in spite of all my wallpaper. I turned it off with a laugh. I had no intention of telling him it was because of the wallpaper. He would make fun of me. He might even want to take me away. I don't want to leave now until I have found out. There is a week more, and I think that will be enough. I am feeling ever so much better. Okay, guys, so let's talk a little bit about themes. All right, she doesn't want to leave until she has found this woman, what is going on the wallpaper. But I also want to talk about subordination. All right, if you paid attention, you have noticed that she listens and abides to everything that John suggests, even if she does not want to do it. Okay, so remember subordination, especially in the middle to upper class during this time, was it was expected. Women, their roles again were domestic. Again, they were second-class citizens. Who does this character remind you of? She should remind you of maybe Daisy Buchanan. Remember, Daisy was the higher class. She really was not allowed to think for herself, and Tom made sure that she thought exactly as he did when they confronted Gatsby in the hotel room. All right, so I want you to think about how our narrator is very similar to Daisy's Buchanan. John, his superior wisdom, his being a physician and a doctor, leads him to misjudge his wife and patronize and dominate his wife. And his wife, in this instance, has almost become a child, okay? She has this fascination in this wallpaper because she is not allowed to exercise her brain. All right, let's keep going. So I am feeling ever so much better. I don't sleep much at night, for it is so interesting to watch developments, but I sleep a good deal in the daytime. In the daytime, it is tiresome and perplexing. There are always new shoots on the fungus and new shades of yellow all over it. I cannot keep count of them, though I have tried conscientiously. It is the strangest yellow, the wallpaper. It makes me think of all those yellow things I ever saw, not beautiful ones like buttercups, but old foul, bad yellow things. Okay, so we are beginning to see how this wallpaper is dominating her imagination. Okay, she doesn't sleep at night. She sleeps during the day now. But there is something else about the paper, the smell. I noticed in the moment we came into the room, but with so much air and sun, it was not bad. Now that we have a week of fog and rain and weather, the windows are open or not, the smell is here. It creeps all over the house. I find it hovering in the dining room, skulking in the parlor, hiding in the hall, lying in wait for me on the stairs. It gets into my hair. Even when I go to ride, if I turn my head suddenly and surprise it, there's the smell. Such a peculiar odor, too. I have spent hours trying to analyze it, to find what it smelled like. It is not bad at first, and very gentle, but quite the subtlest, most enduring odor I ever met. In this damp weather, it is an awful thing. I wake up in night and find it hanging over me. It used to disturb me at first. I thought seriously of burning the house to reach the smell. But now I am used to it. The only thing I can think of that is it's like the color of the paper, a yellow smell. There's a very funny mark on the wall low down near the mopboard. A streak that runs around the room. It goes beyond every piece of furniture except the bed, a long, straight, even smooch as it had been rubbed over and over. I wonder how it was done, and who did it, and what they did it for. Round and round and round, round and round, round. It makes me dizzy. Okay, guys, so notice in this journal entry how sporadic her thoughts are, how much shorter the sentences are, the use of dashes. Okay, this is meant to demonstrate that her mind is not clear, that she is indeed going crazy. She's convinced that she can smell the wallpaper even when she is outside. All right. John thinks she's getting better. She's more tranquil. When he comes in during the day, she's tired, but we know this is the exact opposite. I really have discovered something at last. Through watching so much at night, when it changes so, I have finally found out. The front pattern does move, and no wonder. The woman behind shakes it. Sometimes I think there are a great many women behind, and sometimes only one, and she crawls around fast, and her crawlings shake it all over. Then, in the very bright spots, she keeps still, and in the very shady spots, she just takes hold of the bars and shakes them hard. And she is all the time trying to climb through. But nobody could climb through a pattern. It strangles so. I think that is why it has so many heads. They get through, and then the pattern strangles them off and turns them upside down and makes their eyes white. If those heads were covered or taken off, it would not be half so bad. I think the woman gets out in the daytime. What? Okay, so there's this woman, and we just read the whole last journal entry about her and how she crawls and all this, and now she's like, I think she gets out in the daytime. And I'll tell you why. Privately, I've seen her. I can see her out of every one of my windows. It is the same woman, I know, for she is always creeping, and most women do not creep by daylight. I see her in the long shaded lane, creeping up and down. I see her in those dark grape arbors, creeping all around the garden. I see her on the long road under the trees, creeping along, and when a carriage comes, she hides under the blackberry vines. I don't blame her a bit. It must be very humiliating to be caught creeping by daylight. Okay, so she's like creeping around by daylight. I always lock the door when I creep by daylight. I don't do it at night, for I know John would suspect something at once. Okay, so when she's creeping around the room in the daylight, she locks the door. And John is so queer now that I don't want to irritate him. I wish he would take another room. Besides, I don't want anybody to get that woman out at night by myself. But myself. I often wonder if I could see her out of all the windows at once. But turn as fast as I can only see out of one at one time. And though I always see her, she may be able to creep faster than I can turn. I have watched her sometimes away off in the open country, creeping as fast as a cloud shadow in the high wind. If only that top pattern could have gotten off from the under one. I mean, to try it, little by little. I have found out another funny thing, but I shan't tell it at this time. It does not do to trust people too much. There are only 2 more days to get this paper off, and I believe John is beginning to notice. I don't like the look in his eyes. And I heard him ask Ginny a lot of professional questions about me. She had a very good report to give. She said I slept a good deal in the daytime. John knows I don't sleep very well at night, for all I'm so quiet. He asked me all sorts of questions, too, and pretended to be very loving and kind, as if I could see through him. Still, I don't wonder he acts so sleeping under this paper for 3 months. It only interests me, but I feel sure John and Ginny are secretly affected by it. Hurrah! This is the last day, but it is enough. John to stay in town overnight and won't be out until this evening. Ginny wanted to sleep with me, that sly thing, but I told her I should undoubtedly rest better for a night all alone. Okay, so again, John and Ginny are beginning to suspect that something is up with their wife.